Now for the final film in the franchise, the trilogy, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, released in 1983, written by George Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan, directed by Richard Marquand, stars Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Mayhew, James Earl Jones, and Daniel Prouse. This film had a budget of $32.5 million and had a global box office of $475 million. Either the dark side or the light side of the Force will prevail in an epic battle. Luke, alongside the rebellion, faces the full force of the Emperor in efforts to liberate the Galactic Empire. Oh, and this film opens with a new Death Star is nearly finished and operational, and soon the Empire will become an unstoppable force because of it.
And we have another great opening with Darth Vader speaking with the commanders and operators there on this new station. And we learn that the station is still under construction and that the Emperor is not happy about it. And in this film, the way Vader speaks about the Emperor, it really makes him seem like he really is a servant to this man and that he really is the number 2. And he even says that the Emperor is going to be there in person. And I think like as an audience member, even you're afraid to see him in person on screen.
Yeah, and Vader, like you said, we learn more about him. We also get to see him getting his suit put on, and we see this burned in figurements of his skin and his body and what really is underneath that suit. And like you almost didn't think that he was human at all, but even though he obviously is human, he still doesn't look human beneath the suit.
Yeah.
And it's even a little more terrifying. And compared to episodes 4 and 5, the Return of the Jedi is for sure like more spectacle and action than anything. It's still a great movie and storyline and everything, but it's a lot faster paced, more action. Like we talked about earlier, this film has more climaxes, more main events, more subplots and subplot main events all kind of happening at the same time towards the end.
Yeah, this movie is basically a long action movie.
And the main theme of Return of the Jedi is redemption, and you can even say that about the entire Star Wars saga, that redemption is a major theme of every single movie. And we learn eventually that almost any character in a Star Wars franchise can redeem themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I love the first act of this movie because it's kind of its like own little mini movie.
Yeah, it's like this dual escape mission.
First, Lando and Leia rescue Han from the Carbonite. And we get a feel for Jabba the Hutt's home. It's a fun little world, and all the creature designs are fantastic.
And, of course, we have a jazz band that we get so many shots of.
Another jazz band. When their plan is foiled, Luke shows up, and he's dressed in all black, and he's got a hooded robe. And the first shot of him is this great silhouette walking into the caverns, and then he force chokes those 2 guards. And you're like, okay, Luke is a Jedi now.
Let's go.
He is legit. And if you look, he's wearing all black in this film. Luke's wardrobe changes from each film. In A New Hope, he's wearing white. And in Empire Strikes Back, he's wearing gray. And then in Return of the Jedi, he wears black. And the transitions of clothing transition to his growth and immaturity as a Jedi. White equals innocence and naivety. And gray is a transition. And then black is maturity and power. And so he's finally reached full maturity as a Jedi.
Just like Nina in Black Swan.
Exactly.
Which we talked about in a previous episode.
And a lot of people think that he has black in this film because he's getting closer to the dark side in order to match up with Darth Vader. But I think it's more about his character transition than that.
I think it's both because I think Lucas wants to tease the audience that maybe he's getting darker. He's getting these darker thoughts because, yes, he's maturing as a character. And he seems a lot more serious. He seems a lot more motivated and things like that. So
his character is very different. He's calm. He's very controlled. He doesn't lose his temper anymore. He's not impatient anymore. He's a completely reserved person compared to his younger self.
Yeah, so he's basically a drastically different character if you compare him to just the teenage kid who people called him a whiny brat in the first movie, which I don't think he's that whiny.
I mean, compared to Kylo Ren, he's not whiny at all.
Yeah, Kylo Ren has just anger management written all over him. Angsty teenager, my God.
But Luke is just very powerful now, and it's great to see that he has a full grasp on his powers.
Yeah, and actually the first shot of Luke in this film isn't him silhouetted in the hallway. It's when his hologram is projected on R2-D2 because Luke is trying his way to save Han Solo by trading these droids for Han Solo. And eventually Luke says that if he denies this offer, then he'll face him. Then Jabba the Hutt will face death.
Yeah, I feel like a younger Luke would have just gone in guns blazing, whereas this Luke is a full-on Jedi, so he understands that he doesn't attack first. He's trying to use diplomacy before violence.
Exactly.
He seems to have a good plan, but it doesn't work out when he steps upon that trap door and he falls into that cave with that giant monster, and it's an incredible creature, and it looks real. I don't know if it's stop motion or if it's just a giant puppet. It could be either one, but it looks fantastic.
Well, Jabba the Hutt's actually a giant puppet, which I think took 6 people to puppeteer, and this massive costume or structure of Jabba the Hutt that costs $500,000 to make, and it weighed 2,000 pounds. So
Jesus.
that suit or that Jabba the Hutt prototype or whatever you want to call it weighed a ton.
What was in that thing?
I don't know, man. Maybe water.
And it's a great battle. He ends up killing it by slamming the door in its face, but he gets captured and handcuffed as well. And this leads to the famous Sarlacc Pit, where they're pretty much kind of just like pirates on a ship. They're going to kick each captive over the ledge into the mouth of this monster that lives inside this desert pit. But then we find out Luke had a plan all along.
And R2-D2 spits out his lightsaber.
It's so amazing. And then he jumps off that plank and catches his saber.
He has this new green saber now.
Dude, he is murking guys left and right.
Legit, straight up. He's just slicing dudes left and right. He's slicing them and dicing, dude.
Yeah, the saber fights were greatly improved in this. And then everyone's favorite anti-hero, Boba Fett, accidentally gets hit by Han Solo in the jetpack, and he flies right into the Sarlacc monster.
But he's so cool, man.
He's like the best character in Star Wars.
And so Luke saves the day. He saves his bud, saves his friends, saves Leia in her metal bikini. He saves Han Solo.
She actually hated the metal bikini.
I would hate that thing too. It seems incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what's ridiculous is George Lucas made her not wear underwear or a bra when she was filming her scenes. Not in this one, I mean, I'm talking about in the other ones, because he said there's no underwear in space. And so Carrie Fisher ended up just putting tape on her breasts so that you obviously can't see them, because she's just wearing a thin white dress. And obviously, is that really the reason, George Lucas, you didn't want her to wear bras?
Come on. Jeez.
My God, guy, come on. At least it's 2020.
We go back to Dagobah and we hang out with Yoda some more. And Yoda seems to be very weak and frail.
Because Luke had to go back to finish his training, which he promised he would.
Yeah. And we understand that Yoda looks like he's dying. And he reveals to Luke that in order to finish his training, he must confront Vader.
And he confirms with Luke that Vader is really his father, because Luke's kind of upset that Obi-Wan never told him. Why wouldn't he tell him?
Yeah. And George Lucas originally didn't want to have Yoda confirm it, but he had several meetings with a child psychologist, and the psychologist recommended that if someone in this film doesn't outright confirm that Darth Vader is Luke's father, then children under the age of 12 are going to think it's a lie, and they won't believe it. And so Lucas was like, okay, if I don't want to lose half this audience here, so I need Yoda to basically solidify the fact that Vader is Luke's father.
And just like Obi-Wan, when he passed, Yoda dies in Return of the Jedi here, and he, like Obi-Wan, fades into existence and fades and becomes a part of the Force. And it's how Jedi become these Force spirits or Force ghosts, which we see from time to time, always at the end of movies and when happy things are happening. And they effectively cast their physical bodies into oblivion to allow themselves to basically go beyond death and transcend death, and like I said, become one with the Force.
And Luke has this interaction with Obi-Wan where he tells him that he feels betrayed that Obi-Wan didn't tell Luke the truth about Vader, and he also reveals that he doesn't think that he can kill his own father. And that's the main conflict with Luke, because he feels that in order to save the galaxy, Vader has to die, but he doesn't feel as though he can kill him.
And then the rebellion finds out about the Death Star, and they find out they get new plans of this new Death Star to find a weakness, and they do find a new weakness on this new and improved supposedly Death Star. So instead of having one shaft, there are several shafts now.
Well, and also the Death Star's not finished yet.
Yeah.
And they think that the Death Star is non-operational weaponry-wise.
But what they don't know is that this is all just a trap by
It's
the
a trap.
Emperor to get them into this very vulnerable situation where they think they have the upper hand.
Yeah, so we end up understanding that Palpatine, the Emperor, is pulling all the strings here, and everything that happens is according to how he foresaw it and how he planned it to go about. And then the rebellion's plan is basically to go on this moon where there's an energy base, and they need to shut off this transmitter, which will turn off the shield that's surrounding the Death Star.
This episode of Raiders of the Lost podcast is also brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your comfort, obsesses over technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped has been super generous. They sent us their performance packages, and they have some more stuff coming for us on the way. Thanks so much to our rep, Kyle, for hooking it up so much. Their luxury lawnmower groomer is the best buzzers I've ever used in my life. I can't believe I've been using these CVS $10 clippers and just pulling hairs out of my body forever. Grooming's a part of life, everybody. It's COVID, it's lockdown, it's going to be winter. You got to start taking care of yourself, or you don't want things to get out of hand.
Don't want to look like Chewbacca.
Yeah, you don't want to look like Chewbacca. And this isn't just for men. If you have a man in your life, if you got a boyfriend, siblings, brothers, a father, uncles, cousins, Manscaped is the perfect place to get gifts for the holiday season or birthdays, whatever. I'm telling you, any guy would be more than ecstatic to get a gift from Manscaped. Use Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off your order and free shipping. Again, Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off and free shipping from manscaped.com. And then we have the infamous Ewoks, and a lot of people have mixed feelings about Ewoks. They're obviously, meant for kids and family-friendly characters, and a lot of adults and hardcore fans, you'll hear that they think that this is a major weakness of Return of the Jedi, that they don't look super realistic or anything like that. I don't mind the Ewoks so much. Obviously, I thought they were more fun when I was a kid, but it's part of the franchise. It's something you kind of have to accept, even if you do see like a lot of wrinkles on the back of the costumes or their legs when they bend their knees and stuff like that. But you just gotta kind of accept it. It's part of it. Is what it is. I mean, like I said, I don't mind the Ewoks.
Yeah, I don't mind them either. And understandably, this is by far the most family-friendly of the films. And I think Lucas understood that young kids make up a large portion of the audience. So I think he was trying to find a way to make it more inclusive and fun for them. And so having these cute little critters involved in the story helped with that. And also, they actually originally wrote the Ewoks to be Wookiees. They originally wrote it to be a civilization of Wookiees, like Chewbacca. But what happened was, as they discussed it, they decided that Chewbacca is always handling the most advanced technology. He can fly the ships, he can build anything, he can fix anything. So it wouldn't make sense that he comes from a culture that is still using rocks and sticks. And so they were like, okay, Wookiees would probably be way too advanced to be living so crudely, so they came up with this completely new kind of creature.
Yeah, and before we get to the Ewoks, actually, we're on that planet and that moon, and we actually have, which is, I think it was shot in California, so it doesn't look that...
the redwoods, yeah.
It doesn't look that alien, but we have the awesome chase scene with those, like, hover bikes.
The riders,
yeah. The riders, which is super cool.
It's an amazing scene.
Yeah, and when even... Still, all these movies, each one has things about where you're like, how did they freaking film this? How did they do this? I can't believe it.
So I can tell you.
Tell me, please. I'm just saying, vaguely but ambiguously, but please do tell me.
So in order to film, especially the POV shots of the riders where they're flying through the woods, they took a Steadicam operator and they had him walk backwards through the forest, and they were recording with the camera, but they were recording one frame every couple of seconds. And so they had him walk backwards for forever, recording one frame every few seconds for a long time. And then they took that footage and they reversed it and they played it at 24 frames per second. And that sped up the speed of his movement by 5,000%. And it made it look like they were moving 120 miles per hour through the forest.
That is cool.
Super cool, huh?
Yeah, thanks, man.
No problem.
Yeah, so many fun facts today.
And then for all the other shots, it's like the same thing, but with dollying instead.
Gotcha.
But I think it's a really exhilarating action scene. And it also has a lot of moments that you've seen so many other chase scenes in action movies borrow from, with like a villain and then a protagonist, and they're at odds, and like one's trying to get the advantage of the other. And it's just obviously it doesn't look perfect, but I think if you invest yourself into the movie and just give yourself up to it, it's a phenomenal action sequence.
Yeah, and so basically they're picked up by the Ewoks after this, and the Ewoks, they think 3PO is this new god, and they start praising him because he's this metal golden creature or robot, and they think that the humans, they're going to eat the humans in honor of their new god coming. And it's kind of fun. It's pretty funny, and it does work for me at this point.
I laugh at it. I think it's a lot of fun.
And
they tie up Han.
Yeah, they tie them all up like they're about to roast them for dinner, and to be the meal at the banquet in honor of the 3PO god. And we get another great glimpse of Luke using the Force, and he floats 3PO in the air. And this is like the first time we've seen Luke float it, because we forgot to mention this in Empire Strikes Back, where iconic scene where Yoda is trying to teach Luke how to use the Force by floating the objects up and down, and floating the rocks and lifting the rocks, and his ship falls into that lake, and Luke can't lift it up. It's too big for him. And then Yoda's trying to explain to him it doesn't matter how big the ship is. It's all about clearing your mind and becoming one with the Force.
The Matrix.
And yeah, exactly. This is legit.
Clear my mind.
Yeah. And Yoda, that's the most powerful form of the Force we've seen to that point, is Yoda lifting the starship, the X-Wing fighter, out of the lake. This giant ship.
It's a great scene.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so we finally get to see Luke use his powers in this way, lifting 3PO up. And it's so fun when we finally get to see, exciting ways of the Force used.
Mm-hmm. And then he talks 3PO, and he explains you can just trick them into speaking like a god. And he tells 3PO to threaten them if any harm befalls the humans, and so then they're set free.
Yeah, and so 3PO also tells them the story of the Galactic War and the Empire, and the Ewoks, they become, let's go, let's do this. They join the forces, and they use their Home Alone woods techniques, the Vietnamese fighting techniques, to take out a bunch of the Imperial robots and soldiers and their PT walkers. And so
it's like a metaphor of technology versus nature.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for the Vietnam War, too, where those local tribes and soldiers use just non-sophisticated methods to win battles in parts of the war.
Mm-hmm. And so while all this is happening, there's two other storylines happening. Lando has taken control of the fighter pilot unit, and they're planning to attack the Death Star once the shield goes down. But then they get swarmed by the ambush, and we learn that it was all a trap.
Yeah, as soon as they come in from light speed, boom, they blow up the biggest ship they have.
Yeah. And so while they're trying to fend off all the TIE fighters and destroyers, that's also cut along with Luke giving himself up to Vader. And then Luke's plan with this is he knows that there's still goodness within Vader, and he feels confident walking into this moment that he can convince Darth Vader to give himself up and join the light side.
Yeah, and Luke tries this when he's just handcuffed and they're just walking along to get to the Emperor, and they're just chatting, and Luke's trying to entice him. And at this point, Darth Vader says that he's too far gone, but he's also calling Luke son.
Yeah,
which is odd. We haven't heard Darth Vader talk like this, because Luke's been calling him father. Luke's been calling him father for a little bit, and I think this is a sign for Luke, and he realizes that there's still human left inside Darth Vader, and there's still hope to bring him back to humanity.
Yeah, so I think it's yes. When he says son, that's very revealing. And also, he says specifically, it's too late for me. And what I think he's saying there is that he's kind of admitting that there is a part of him that wishes he wasn't there, and that he maybe regrets his actions. And he says, even though he regrets it, it's too late to change anything, and he's just stuck there. So there is a part of him that doesn't want to be there.
Probably regrets killing all those little Jedi kids.
And his wife and everyone else.
Goddamn Anakin.
You are the chosen one! I hate you!
You were meant to destroy the dark side, not join it.
From my side, the Jedi are evil.
I have the high ground. We're getting way too carried away with this. All right, let's get back. Episode 6. Come on, lock in. We're in the end. And the Emperor, we find out his plan really all along was he wanted Luke to come here because he wanted to now turn Luke into his new apprentice, and he wanted Luke to see the visions of him fighting Vader, and he wanted Luke to kill Vader because as soon as Luke decides that he's had enough of the Emperor's talk and he goes to attack the Emperor with his lightsaber, Vader stops him with his red saber, and there's this great shot of the Emperor's face, and he's like, oh yeah, let's go.
Here we go. He's got the smile on.
Because he wants Luke to kill Vader, because like I said, there can only be two, and he wants to create Luke as his new apprentice.
Exactly, and Luke is actually dealing with two battles. So he's physically battling Darth Vader in the lightsaber fight, but then he's mentally battling wits with the Emperor, who's trying to break down Luke mentally and emotionally.
Because again, the Emperor, like you said earlier, is pulling all these strings. It's not Vader, it's the Emperor. This episode of Raiders of the Lost podcast is brought to you by our friends at movieposters.com. Use coupon code Raiders15 at checkout for 15% off your order today. Movieposters.com is the number one site to get your movie posters and has been for years. They have been great to work with. They send us posters. They're sponsoring our current poster giveaway this week. You have until Friday to enter the contest when we announce our winner, so enter that contest.
Get those free posters, guys. It's free.
Why not get a Star Wars poster?
It's free 99, guys. Free 99.
Movieposters.com offers great options like original designs, framing, backlight, and canvas, and even plaque designs. Again, use coupon code Raiders15 to get 15% off your order at movieposters.com.
Earlier in the film, when Luke learns that Leia is his sister, Obi-Wan tells him that he has to hide this because if the Emperor finds out, he'll use it against him. And then this ends up happening in the scene where Vader reads Luke's thoughts and discovers that there is a daughter, and Vader threatens to turn her to the dark side instead of Luke. And this infuriates Luke and drives so much anger within him, and then he carries out this onslaught of attacks on Darth Vader, and this anger fuels him so much and actually gives him so much power where he ends up defeating Vader and chopping his hand off this time. And then now Luke has him. He beat Vader, and he's on the floor, and it looks like he's very close to laying down that final strike with his saber, but he stops himself.
Yeah, so Luke throws his saber away because Luke is not going to succumb to the dark side. He's not going to kill his father. He's not going to commit patricide. He'd rather they kill him. And so the Emperor, like I said, there can only be two, so the Emperor just has to kill Luke. And he's going to keep Vader as his apprentice. And so he does the crazy dark lightning on Luke, and he's being cooked. And basically, he's like smoking. And at this moment, Luke is calling out for his father. He's asking him to help him. And Vader, for the first time probably in his entire life, finally feels what it's like to be a father, because he's watching his son, his own blood, being tortured and in pain. And which, if you ever talk to any parent, is the most unbearable feeling you can have when your child is in pain or in discomfort. And so Vader steps in, he lifts up the Emperor, and just tosses him down that goddamn shaft where he explodes.
Yeah, great ending.
With all that dark energy.
Yeah, and so Vader, Anakin Skywalker, did end up fulfilling the prophecy that was spoken about him, that he would destroy the Emperor and bring peace to the Republic.
Yeah, but with that, he sacrificed his life, because while he lifted up the Emperor with all the dark lightning and everything and the energy, it basically fried Vader's robot and his suit and what kept him alive and his life support.
Yeah, you can no longer breathe anymore.
And we have the very emotional scene where Vader finally wants to remove his helmet. He asks Luke to remove his helmet so that he can finally look at him with his own eyes.
The design of Darth Vader's real face is very jarring and pretty shocking at first, and I think they made his face incredibly pale to make it seem like he was becoming more and more like the Emperor. And He looks like he's lost nearly all of his humanity by this point, but there's still goodness within him.
And like I said at the beginning of this segment, the main theme of this film is redemption, and basically any character can be redeemed, and Vader redeems himself in this act.
Yeah, and he thanks Luke for being, he says, "You were right about me. Tell Leia you were right about me."
And at the same time, the rebels on Endor, the moon, turn the tables on their captors, and with the help of the Ewoks, they destroy the shield generator, protecting the Death Star.
Then they fuck that Death Star up, man.
Yeah, they blow up the other Death Star.
Kill another 300,000 innocent people.
Well, no, it's like 125,000 because it's not complete yet. They don't have full staff.
Half capacity.
So like half those janitors on Tatooine haven't come to work yet.
Okay, gotcha. You're right. And then Luke has a ceremonial burning of Anakin Skywalker's body.
We have this great celebration with the Ewoks and the crew and the rebel forces, and we get the new Jedi ghost of Anakin Skywalker, and he's not burned up or anything. He's back to what he probably would have been if he never got corrupted by the dark side.
And it's Anakin from the prequels. So originally it was the original actor who played Darth Vader in that scene where his mask was removed. They had his ghost in the scene right here. Lucas put in Hayden Christensen as Anakin right here in this scene as a Force ghost. And I actually agree with this because a lot of people were like, but like it doesn't make sense because he died when he was older. But if you think about it, the last time he was Anakin was when Hayden Christensen was playing him.
When he was last a Jedi.
Yeah, when he was last a Jedi, when he was last Anakin Skywalker, because he became Darth Vader. And I think this is a terrific conclusion to the franchise, to the trilogy.
Yeah, man, the original trilogy is the best trilogy. It has 2, if not 3, of the best movies in the Star Wars franchise. Return of the Jedi, again, it's like I said, it's a lot spectacle. Also a great conclusion. Fantastic filmmaking. Special effects are absurdly good because they got pretty much double the budget they're working with here. George Lucas, what can we say? More than the fact that the guy's a genius. Created the most successful film series ever, and probably that will ever exist. And there's a reason why these movies were made in the late 70s and 80s. We're still talking about it in 2020. You can still go to any toy store and find Luke Skywalker action figures. You can turn on the movies anytime. Anyone can quote the movies. Anyone can pick out a favorite character. Even if they haven't seen the movies, they know the characters. They know the story. They know who Darth Vader is. They know who Luke Skywalker is. There's a reason for all that, and this is one of the most iconic stories ever told.
Yeah, and they're so powerful and they resonate so much with audiences that Disney is still trying to turn out as many as they can. And they still do make a lot of money, but still they haven't been able to capture the same magic that these ones had. And these 3 will always stand the test of time, and they'll go down as one of the greatest stories ever told in cinema.
The Imperial March, which is Darth Vader's like iconic theme, was not written until Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and it's not even in A New Hope, which is a massive common misconception.
That's insane. The famous scene where Darth Vader reveals to Luke that he's his father, Mark Hamill didn't even know what the scene was about. They kept it secret from even him, and he didn't know his lines until right before they were going to shoot the scene.